They are outside Parliament every day, trying to sway politicians. But they are no longer alone. Another camp has started its own protest action. Tensions are clearly running high here in Westminster. We've had these pro-European protesters here for months. Now it's a new phenomenon. Just a few meters down the road, we have people who are actually protesting for Brexit. They are not as numerous as the pro-Europeans, but they're equally determined. These Brexit campaigners are afraid that politicians might decide on a soft Brexit, keeping too many ties to the EU. They want to cut loose completely.
We can definitely survive a no deal.
Almost every economic model says the GDP will go down. Do you think it's a price worth paying?
Yeah, with the British people, I think we can do it, and Britain's a strong country. I think we can definitely survive.
Economists are usually wrong, you know. They're not always right. They always say things which are not right, and maybe this time they're wrong as well.
Around the corner, others are encouraging motorists to show their support. They are convinced, even if May's agreement doesn't get approved, there will be some form of cooperation between London and the EU.
We don't have to have a deal to sell things to Germany. I have an Audi car. It's very old, but I have an Audi car. I will still buy Audi cars. You don't need a deal at all.
You couldn't imagine the heads of Mercedes-Benz, BMW, Volkswagen and Audi accepting Britain suddenly putting 100% tariff on their cars. They'd turn around to the Chancellor and say, no, we want a deal tomorrow. Same with the French wine producers or Italian wine producers. It's nonsense.
There will be a trade deal no matter what. That's the firm belief of these Leave campaigners. But what's most important to them, Britain needs to get out, and fast. For them, anything else amounts to betrayal.
One of the major sticking points for many British lawmakers opposed to Theresa May's Brexit deal is the Irish backstop. Now, that's the agreement that would avoid a physical border between Northern Ireland, which is part of the UK, and the Republic of Ireland, which is and will remain a member of the EU. The European Union is expected to publish a letter today giving new assurances on the temporary nature of the backstop. Well, for more, I'm joined now from Brussels by DW's Georg Mattis. Georg, first of all, tell us more about this letter concerning the Irish backstop.
Terry, you've already explained the Irish backstop, and that's quite important here because mainly that is the message of this letter, i.e. saying, look, we really only want the backstop as a guarantee that there will be no hard border between the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland, and we do not want it as a trap to keep the UK, to force the UK to stay within the customs unions and parts of the internal market. That's the idea of the backstop. Make sure there is no hard border, but do not artificially keep the UK trapped in this customs union, and that is the concern of many Brexiteers in the Parliament, and that is why many have said we have to vote against this deal. Even if we want a deal, we need to vote against it because that's a real threat here.
OK, so the backstop remains an issue. Georg, if Theresa May does not get this deal through Parliament, one possible outcome is that Britain will seek to delay its formal exit from the European Union beyond the March 29th deadline. Would the EU allow that?
That is the understanding here as well. And from what I have heard from diplomats and insiders in this negotiation process is there is a willingness to provide extra time. It needs unanimity and it needs a request from the UK, unanimity on the part of the EU. But they would be willing to give a few months if the reason for that is promising, if it really would make sense from the EU's perspective. One of the reasons could be a new referendum. The EU has always made clear they do want to keep the UK. They never wanted the UK out, so that could be a good reason. And it really depends on what the UK's leader or what the Parliament would say to the EU, why they would need this time. I think 2 months extra wouldn't be something the EU wants, but it could be on the table to avoid a cliff-edge Brexit.
OK, well, let's think about that scenario. Maybe the departure of Britain from the EU would be delayed, but European parliamentary elections are scheduled for the end of May. What impact would a delay of the UK's departure have on that election process?
This is, of course, the big sticking point here, giving a longer than a 2-month extension, because it would lead into the new legislative of a new parliament, maybe into the election. It would without doubt create a mess. But the case has never been here. And so a number of scenarios are on the table, because after all, new members have joined the European Union in the process of an election. And there were examples of second-grade MEPs. Now, if that also applies for a country that intends to leave, or maybe not to leave, that will be the big question. But without doubt, the EU will be very keen to avoid a longer extension that would lead into that new period of the new parliament. Also because the seats of the new parliament have already been redistributed. It's been newly balanced. So if you have an election, member states will have more seats. And then if the UK suddenly decides they want to stay, that will have to be recalculated. And that's a scenario the EU does not want to see.
Georg, thank you very much for bringing us up to date. DW's Georg Mattes there in Brussels.